Here's one that's guaranteed to ruin your day. The laundry's all piled up, ready to do. First load is in. You hit the start button, and here's the door open alarm. Or worse yet, you're halfway through the load, and then here's the door open alarm. Okay, cool down and relax. I'm going to show you how to fix it, and it won't cost you anything but time. Now, before we begin anything, reach up there and unplug the washer just to make sure that you won't get shocked doing all this work because we are messing with electrical. Okay, the first thing to take note of is this spring located at the bottom of the gasket. Make sure you know exactly where it is because you want to put it back exactly the same way. When you're levering the spring out, just make sure you don't get too aggressive and cut the gasket. As you can see here, taking the spring out, that's no big deal. Putting it back, that's a new challenge. And we'll address that challenge a little bit later on in the video. Well, since I'm about 95% sure it's a switch, I'm going to go ahead and take 2 screws out, and then we can reach in there, peel it all back, and make it a whole lot easier to disconnect the switch. If I pull it out like this, then I can readily see the place where it's connected and use my thumb to pull up on the little locking tab. Then I can just go ahead and disconnect the switch. As you can see, just by reaching in, pulling up the little locking tab, and then rocking the connector back and forth, this should come right back out. Once this is disconnected, you've got the switch in your hand. It's time to move on someplace where you can open the switch up. Once you have the switch out, look it over carefully and make sure there's no indication of burning or broken parts on the outside. There are 4 plastic locking tabs located around the device. You want to take your time here and go real slow. You can break these, and if you do, you're probably into it for a new switch. You want to lever up just the minimum amount possible on each one to make the tab release. I found that if you put a little light pressure on your thumb as you're levering the switch open, the switch will come right apart. You'll be able to see the little opening open up when the tab is released. There are 2 primary modes of failure in this switch. The first is contact burning, and that's why I'm taking this one piece off. The second is the lower lever is spring loaded, and it tends to lose its spring action, meaning the switch will not close. Probably a good idea to check for continuity before you remove this top section of the switch. It should be closed as you take it apart. Before you do anything else with the switch, it's probably best that I point this out. Note the round cam and the fact that the flat portion is sitting right directly on the little lever. This is the position that it should be in for installation and removal. If it's not in this position, then this door switch will be out of registration and your washer will not work correctly. Your door switch will be off. Note the little black plunger at the back of the switch. This is the contact made position and the position that it would be in with the switch in place. If this contact is not made, you will get a door open alarm. Okay, here's one of the most critical shots in the video. You want to make sure this contact is made. If it's not, you have to pull out the upper arm again. Then you can kind of twist out the lower spring arm, bend it, and then twist it back in place. Make sure you know exactly how the arm was in place underneath the black plunger assembly. Once you're sure everything is correct, it's just a matter of popping the 2 cases back together again. Shouldn't be a big deal. Just press down straight forward on them and they should pop right together with no problem whatsoever. Now that you've got the switch all back together, it's time to give it a once over from the outside to make sure that nothing else is broke. Look closely at the little plastic lever arm that goes all the way to the back of the switch. Make sure it moves freely and nothing is broken. This can be a source of failure in the switch as well. And if it breaks, yeah, you're into it for a new switch. The metal tab at the other end of the switch is what pulls down and locks the door shut. This thing can be checked, but I don't recommend it because you'll have to take the switch back apart to get the switch back in proper registration. Highly unlikely the solenoid burned up or failed, but I guess anything is possible. Now we've got the switch reinstalled. We need to make sure the gasket around the door is completely in place. In this initial shot, you can see the gasket's pulled out slightly. You want to pull out and twist down to get the gasket locked back in place. Now it's time to send the wife and kids away because they've definitely come to the cussing, fussing, banging, and knuckle busting portion of the video. You want to start with the left side of the spring directly in its final resting position, just right up against where the little recess is in the rubber gasket. Next, you want to clamp a pair of small vice grips to the other side. You're going to be pulling on these to stretch the spring. After that, stretch the spring around in the groove as far as it'll go, making sure that it is in the groove and not in front or behind the groove. The trick here is to pull straight in directly the same plane as the door gasket is. You don't want to pull out from the door gasket. You do what I've done here, and I did this to show you what happens if you don't pull directly straight parallel with the door gasket flange. No recovery here. You just basically have to take the spring back off, get it back in the groove, and start all over again. Okay, and here's a successful spring installation. Note it did take multiple tries, and I did kick the camera. Sorry about that, but not enough room for me and the camera in here to get this shot, because it takes about everything you got to be able to hold up against the dryer to keep the spring from popping out and getting out of the groove. Well, here's hoping you found this here video informative and useful. Also, here's hoping you'll check back again on a future video. Until then, if you're liking what you're seeing, give me a like and consider subscribing. I just might have another video coming up here real soon you're going to want to see. So take care, y'all. Have a great day. This is the Southern Engineer going by.